Welcome to the Solid Verbal. And now, Dan and Ty.
All right, Dan, today is the day we are diving back into the world of message boards, my friend. Welcome back. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I am good, Ty. I was so good I was talking over you as you finished the end of your sentence. I'm very good. This is a topic near and dear to my heart. A lot of people, including you and I, have long said the lifeblood, that's the word, the lifeblood of this sport is recruiting. To that I say, maybe not anymore, with how quickly recruiting can go awry where you're so excited about your new right tackle and whoop, he's in the portal in a year and a half. So I think recruiting has taken a hit, but the general tenor of the college football and college football adjacent message board is thriving. It's strong. The community is as weird as ever. It gets as off topic as ever. And I think people, instead of coming together to be thrilled, to be upset, largely upset about their team as a group, as a community, as digital friends, there is something now that there is that shift maybe away from like, oh, I heard that this kid was making a secret visit, or this kid's uncle actually played here, and that's gonna, all the like the surrounding tidbits around recruiting that pop up on message boards. Maybe those aren't going to be as fruitful and as busy, but if we've learned anything, people love to congregate online. That starts out as one thing, and then it goes to a funny place, a weird place, a problematic place. And all of those adjectives are present and thriving on your college football and college football adjacent message boards. And I love it.
Well, yeah. And if building a team and the lifeblood of college football in that sense is recruiting, the fabric of college football fandom is very much the message board.
Yeah.
Your team's message board. Now, over the course of time, I guess that has broadened out onto social media, but still the real diehards are on one or on many message boards.
Yeah.
We have done this episode a couple times over now. We, of course, can go no further without giving credit to our friends out at Board Geniuses, the message board geniuses. They've got a podcast. They've got a very popular Twitter account at Board Geniuses. They're all over the place. They've been all over the place for a couple of years running. They do yeoman's work putting this account together, collecting screenshots, some of the goofier screenshots in message board land that they post out to their account. As we have time and again, we would not be able to do this episode without the fine work that those guys do. So go and check them out. Throw them a follow if you have yet to do so. If you're into all things social media, check out their podcast, et cetera, et cetera. What we've got here before us today is a collection of postings that have been on that account over the last month, 2 months, 3 months or so. Things that got us thinking, got the wheels turning, that we thought maybe we could speak to more broadly as we sort of dive into the depths of college football fandom out on respective message boards. Before we go any further on that front, though, I would ask you, what is the current state of your message board participation? Because you're a little bit more active in this world than I am, at least as a lurker.
Yeah, I'm an active lurker. I'm an active reader. My posting has gone to basically zero. I don't know. It's not really a time thing because I read it all the time. But I don't find myself having things to contribute as much as maybe I used to on my various secret accounts across the internet, my burners across the World Wide Web. Can I tell you something that I've seen over the years that is unique to message boards almost? I mean, you'll see it on social media as well. Have you ever seen a post on a message board? I don't know what you read, Notre Dame, Penn State, or General, whatever. Have you ever seen a post on a message board where somebody announces that a beloved message board member has passed?
I don't mean to laugh, but yes, I've seen this.
No,
I've seen this. Yes, I have, of course.
And it's like, hey, don't know if you guys are aware, but Steve the Cyclone actually lost his battle with pancreatic cancer or something
Sure.
like that.
It's a community. It's very much
a total community. And
Sure.
I don't say this tongue in cheek. I don't say this to be funny. It's very strange sometimes to see news like that happen on an Iowa State or a Cal Bears message board where suddenly they're eulogizing somebody from their community. And I just always find it interesting that under that post will be the person will say like, okay, Steve the Bear, Cyclone Earl or whatever has passed, but their signature is still girls jumping on trampolines from the Man Show in 1996. And you're just like, man, just for this one post, guys, could we turn it off? But it is a, there's a lot of instances where you could say like, this is a lot of work to just not go to therapy. Dudes will do anything to just not go to therapy. But I admire the ability for fans to come and get together behind a common cause, right? You have the live game threads where everybody's just like, no, fire everybody. No. Oh, wait, right? That everybody's reacting in the millisecond. I can appreciate that and going back through people's reactions over the course of a game. But yeah, it is funny when extreme real life, and I'm sure we'll have examples with these message board genius posts where, there will be an Arkansas site, there will be an LSU site, there will be an Indiana site where, there's always the off-topic portions of the message board.
Are there Indiana sites? I'm not aware of that many Indiana sites, but I realize you're picking team names out of a hat.
Crimson Quarry was the old SB Nation Indiana site.
Okay. Did anybody read it?
I think so. I mean, there's always diehards. You pulled out Vanderbilt posts.
I did. Well, they're an SEC team. They've got a following in many other sports. I guess Indiana used to be a basketball school. I don't know if that's still a thing. It sounds like I'm dunking on Indiana. I'm really not. But
no, you shouldn't be.
Continue.
But no, there's always those off-topic pages where people then suddenly feel so comfortable. They're like, hey, so I got a prostate exam coming up, and I've got 3 to 5 questions if anybody wants to weigh in. And people are like, oh, yeah. Been there, was there about a year ago. If I had to do it all over again, this is what I would request that the proctologist. And they're just like, wow, that was a helpful back and forth between Indiana, Michigan and Indiana, Michigan State. Cool. I like it.
On that note, hit follow, hit subscribe if you made it this far so that you don't miss any of our episodes. This is the epitome of a summer episode.
It's great.
On June the 12th. These are the types of episodes you do before the season starts ramping up. We just drew up rough plans in the dirt a couple days ago to start recording preview episodes about 2 weeks out now. At the start of July, you're going to see those start hitting your feed. We're going to do, I think, a lot of what we did last year. We haven't finalized the format quite yet, but we're going to be doing, the higher level conference storylines and trend lines and tiers like we did a year ago. And then we're also going to dive a little bit deeper into team specific stuff. So if you have any suggestions for how you like your preview content, solidverbal@gmail.com. We're always willing to listen and see if we can make things better. If not, cool. Just hit follow, hit subscribe so that you don't miss those episodes. Once we turn the page into July, yes, the season gets a little bit bigger in the window. We get about 6-7 weeks out. That's when the rubber really meets the road, Dan Rubenstein. And of course, last but certainly not least, verballers.com. VERBALLERS.com. That's our Patreon community.
That was a nice little sing-song.
You like that?
You accidentally stumbled into a little like Mickey Mouse Club kind of vibe to it. Okay.
I wear many hats on this episode.
You do.
And on this show. Verballers.com is where you can go to join our Patreon community. Ad-free episodes, bonus content, Discord access. Eventually, we're going to spin the game up here once the season gets a little bit closer. We're going to switch the Patreon tiers over once the season gets a little bit closer as well. So, you're not here for any of that gobbledygook. You are here for some of these message boards postings. And why don't we start out on TigerNet, Dan?
Of course. Where else?
Very popular Clemson website. The handle is Fast Chad. The title is, Can we claim eminent domain on ESPN?
What? Okay.
This is from May the 29th.
Eminent domain being the government's ability to seize private property and turn it public while compensating that private person in a fair way. Allegedly, that's the intent of it, I think. Is it the Fifth Amendment? The Fourth? I think it's the Fifth Amendment.
I am not certain that this is the intended use of eminent domain.
I guess pleading the Fifth would be the Fifth Amendment. Yeah.
Having the best home schedule in all of football for the 2026 season got me to thinking. Can Clemson pick who we want on campus for the broadcasts by claiming eminent domain or whatever that is?
Or whatever that is. Okay. Eminent domain is not the Fifth Amendment. It was proposed to be a part of it. Continue.
It would be cool if we could cherry pick the best broadcast teams and keep guys like Scott Van Pelt catching a stray.
Who, by the way, not on a broadcast team.
Not on a broadcast team.
No, he's a Sports Center host and, golf event host.
Keep guys like Scott Van Pelt off campus. There are some other details in here. I will skip to the part here towards the end where it says he stepped on my foot at a golf tournament a few years ago and never apologized. There is no place for people like that at Clemson. Go Tigers, Dan.
No place. Scott Van Pelt accidentally stepped on this Fast Chad's foot at a golf tournament and didn't apologize. Everything I've heard about Scott Van Pelt as like a person has been very positive.
Correct. He's been on the show. Way back when he was on the show, and I could say yes through numerous sources, let's say. Everything that I have heard about Scott Van Pelt as a human being is overwhelmingly positive. A very, very good dude for what I've never met him, but from what I'm told, he's a very, very good dude.
By the way, I'm old enough now that when you tell me that somebody has appeared on the show, I just trust you and have little to no recollection. If you were to say, noted author Michael Crichton came on the show to talk about Miami football,
you would trust
I'd say, that sounds right. Did we talk about the Pelican Brief? And you're like, yeah, for like a weirdly long amount of time, we talked about the Pelican Brief and the film adaptation. So I just trust you implicitly here. I don't think schools can control broadcast teams who are allowed to or not allowed to come. Though when I saw this, I did think about when Jason Benetti talked about not being able to watch his monitor in real time.
Right.
And has to sort of wait to make calls that it seems too long when a ball clearly crosses the plane and the announcers aren't saying something. And so I do want schools to take a bigger hand in outfitting their stadiums to be as precise and high quality as possible for TV, because TV's paying the bills. So let's use some of that sweet cash to up the tech, Ty. How about that from Fast Chad?
Okay.
I don't think you can use eminent domain. I don't think you can seize upon Noah Eagle only or something to call your games. Though that would put him in a weird spot and kind of funny. I don't think this is happening.
I don't think this is happening. I think the closest that you can come to forcing the issue is like what happened up at Penn State this past season when both game day and Big Noon were on campus at the same time.
Right.
And the students tried to organize something of a boycott to keep fans away from Big Noon and instead support game day because of the game time.
Right.
Because of the game time, I believe for the Ohio State game. I guess if more of that kind of catches fire, perhaps you could have a little bit more hand in this, but eminent domain, this may not be the proper application for eminent domain.
I kind of love the idea that if you hate Big Noon or you hate game day enough, that you could peacefully sabotage their interest in coming back. I kind of love, I don't know how creative Penn State got. Obviously, the most effective thing would just be not showing up.
There were people, I believe, if memory serves, and I could be wrong, but Penn Staters can yell at me. I believe there were some folks in the background giving the finger to the camera.
That's not good enough, though.
And it was sparsely attended as compared
to
I know
it was
game
sparsely
day.
Attended because game day obviously has the longer tradition and the bigger brand name. I just wonder if you could put something in Rob Stone or Urban Meyer or Matt Leinart, their vision, right? Their eye line that distracts them so repeatedly.
Oh, like they do when somebody's trying to shoot free throws?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I would do. that it would be who's the school? I think it's Arizona State. They have the free throw like theater where there are curtains, and then they open the curtain to reveal something insane right before the shooter is about to get the ball or something. I want to say Michael Phelps participated in that.
Yes,
wearing
he
his
did.
gold medals and Speedo and cap. I like the idea of peaceful sabotage. Peaceful sabotage that really just, I don't know how you would do that again with Scott Van Pelt. Because he's such a pro's pro. I don't think you could. I think he would embrace it.
He would steer into it if you did something insane in his eye line. Yeah.
Right. But Urban Meyer, I think we know the path that would get him distracted in terms of content. I think it wouldn't be terribly difficult. It would be like a beginner's level peaceful sabotage. But I wonder if you are an Ohio State fan or Penn State or Michigan or any of the places that don't like the idea of noon kickoffs all the time, especially Ohio State, how can you wreak havoc on the focus of big noon kickoff, whatever that show is called, pregame, big noon pregame? How do you do that? I think the creative college minds that have produced all of those game day signs over the years could come up with something pretty incredible.
Let's go over to Sikkim 365, a Baylor site.
Yeah.
Bell County Bear has weighed in with some conference realignment takes here, Dan.
Okay, Bell County Bear, Baylor site, Baylor 365?
Sikkim 365.
Sikkim 365, yeah, of course.
Baylor and other small TV market schools, Vandy, Duke, SMU, Tulane, etc., just need to rip the Band-Aid off and form their own conference by 2031 IMO. Yes, in my opinion, Dan. Okay. So listen, I've actually seen this posted a bunch of places, and it's clearly not from a TV executive.
Yeah.
It's clearly not from anybody who I think understands the state of revenue in the sport right now.
Yeah.
If you are a school like a Baylor, if you are a school like a Vandy, a Duke, I'm not going to include Tulane in this. You are, I think, in an advantageous spot now because of the playoff, because they keep expanding this thing, because you are in one of the bigger conferences, because you get more payouts than you would if you were to split off and start your own TV conference with exclusively small TV market schools.
Sure.
Okay, so by doing this, yes, you may spit in the eye of the so-called power brokers of college football.
Right.
By starting your own thing, but you would essentially be cutting off your nose to spite your face, because the money, which is now, unfortunately, the real lifeblood of the sport, the money would not be as plentiful as it is if you just stay where you're at.
Right.
I get the appeal of it. I get that this is popular fodder for message boards. I obviously understand that. Tulane, I would presume, would love to be in a conference that got them more money.
Right.
But right now, as it stands, if you're Baylor, if you're SMU, if you're Duke, actually, I shouldn't even include SMU in here. SMU is doing it for free. That's how much they want to be in a bigger conference.
True.
So this is, alas, one of those message board things that I think is fun, probably plays well out on places like Reddit, but is not in reality, as you might be surprised to hear, Dan.
Yeah.
All that realistic.
Yeah, a lot of vibes similar to, we're going to start our own prom. We didn't get invited. We're starting our own.
Well, they did get invited, though. Baylor's in the Big 12. Vandy's in the SEC.
Well,
Duke's in the ACC. SMU's in the ACC. They're in.
Right.
They're in the.
Well,
they're in with
Vandy's
the
in the
kids.
SEC in this example. But, yeah, all of these teams are in pretty good spots now with the ACC settlement, with all of the Clemson and Florida State stuff, seemingly for now in the rearview mirror. I think all parties agreed to settle, and everything is kumbaya for now with some adjustments. That's going to be a tough sell. The under 6 foot basketball league for the Hallmark Channel to scoop up the rights to. It's a hard sell. I appreciate the outlaw nature of that thinking. Screw the system.
No. I appreciate that. I do appreciate that.
We're doing our own thing, but also if they start the underdog conference or something, and then the Big Ten is like, well, we want 2 more teams, Baylor and SMU will be like, well, what about us?
Right.
And bat their eyes a little bit. Yeah.
I will say this.
Yeah.
the poster here is being clearly taken out of context. I don't know how this post came about. Okay. And for as great as the board geniuses are, and they are wonderful, as I said, they're doing God's work.
It's just a snapshot.
It's a snapshot. You don't always get the full context for it. So in a vacuum, yes, this sounds a little bit ludicrous. I don't know how this message came about. Right. But as it stands, smaller TV market schools banding together to form a bigger thing does not necessarily mean it's going to be more profitable. It may be, it may play better online, but if we're trying to move all of these programs forward, I don't know if this is the way to do it.
Yeah. Also, I mean, stuff like this comes up every so often. Like, how do you organize this sport? And with the Big Ten and SEC dominating, what is a way to create appeal nationally as teams are jumping around and conference futures are in doubt? Creating, like, taking Duke away from North Carolina or Baylor away from TCU and SMU away from regional schools. Like, SMU is away from regional schools in the ACC. I don't know that any ACC school at the moment, and maybe it'll happen with time, feels anything about SMU or SMU fans beyond like, oh yeah, I went to Dallas. It was pretty fun. The fans were nice and they were pumped to be in the ACC and we had a good time. Or a bunch of SMU fans came to, take your pick, Clemson or Florida State or Boston College. And it was like cool to have like a new group. But from a national perspective, like if it's going to happen, it's going to take a while for teams to, or for everybody else to get used to not seeing the familiar matchups we're used to seeing. And so I can appreciate the outlaw nature of this thinking, but unfortunately it's going to get a lot worse for this type of thinking than better in the near future. Yeah.
I mean, they're being priced out of the market.
Yeah.
Is what it amounts to. And
by the way, did you see the Texas Tech thing?
The Texas Tech, $55 million?
$55 million, not my money.
Give people the context here.
So with the House settlement and with how much Texas Tech is pouring into football and athletics as a whole, the number that is expected to pay out to all Texas Tech athletes in every sport is estimated. Source, once again, who was it? I want to get this right. Was $55 million. $55 million. Should we just make up the source?
That is a lot of potatoes. $55 million.
It's a depressing number. I'm happy they're getting it, but it's just like if you're an AD, if you're a president anywhere else, basically, then one of 7 to 9 schools, you're just like, well, this is insane. This is a crazy number that might work out for a few years for Texas Tech, and then somebody. What's the goatee guy's name? Is going to get sick of paying it.
Oh, Cody Campbell?
Cody Campbell. Yeah.
All right. Well, actually, on that note, that's a perfect segue into this posting from Scoop Duck. Dan, have you ever been to Scoop Duck?
I can't say that I have. I think is it on 3?
Oregon
Not
site.
A member.
Blazin 03.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Title Full Disclosure.
Oh, okay. Did you say Blazin Ovary?
No, Blazin 03.
Oh, okay.
Blazing Ovary, much different thing.
Yeah.
The recruiting industry needs to demand full transparency.
Yes.
It's no longer simply enough to report that a recruit has, quote, received an offer. What exactly was offered? What are the terms? What's the number? Without these specifics, there's no real insight, no credible reporting, and no meaningful inside information, Dan. Full disclosure is the title of this posting from Blazin 0303.
What's the full disclosure? What is he or she disclosing, though? Oh, he's asking for full disclosure of every single detail with relation to a recruit's offer and NIL sheet. Everything needs to be out in the open.
I believe so. So, it is not at the point yet, like the NFL, where all of these contracts are public and you know who's getting paid what. One of the reasons they do that is because there is an enforceable salary cap and we know who is being paid what. It makes for interesting armchair analysis, especially in the offseason. We don't have that in college football. This stuff's private, at least for now. would be a liar if I said I knew the specifics of the House settlement. That and I don't know how much of this can be made public, if at all, if there is really a pathway to that. Many of the deals that we have seen on the NAL front have all been private so far. There's been this big cloak and dagger thing. Pete Nakos has done a really good job trying to get to the bottom of what some of these offers have looked like. I know many others out there. Max Olson has talked a little bit about it for ESPN, but it's still very cloak and dagger.
Right.
No idea. I would love to know it, but my hunch is that the people doing the reporting aren't in a position to actually divulge these secrets because they don't want to burn their sources either.
Sure.
So we're at a bit of an impasse. I definitely appreciate the spirit of this post, though, and I don't necessarily disagree.
Let me ask you something. Is it so crazy to say that 247, On3, whoever, ESPN's recruiting outfit, that they demand each team employ a full-time investigative reporter? Is that too much to ask that the University of Arizona's On3 site employ a full-time investigative reporter who tracks every actually committable offer, every single NIL conversation, and immediately publicizes it for the low price of like $2 a month that people got a deal on On3 to get? Do we think that is a financially viable strategy? Because that's what essentially we're asking, to track down every offer, to understand the validity of it, to speak to the coaches, to speak to the family, to speak to agents or lawyers, and get the actual NIL number for every school. I think it's a worthwhile pursuit. All of these companies will go out of business, but it's a worthwhile pursuit.
I don't hate the idea behind this, though, because recruiting has gotten a lot more complicated. You know, you see these crystal ball postings. Oftentimes they're right. These guys are experts at what they do. They've got the sources that kind of fill them in as to what's going on. But I suspect that as the money really ramps up, we will see more of the, was it Jackson Cantwell type stories floating around out there where, yes, it seems as though there might be a front runner, Georgia Bulldogs, but in reality, there are greater factors at play. That's how he ends up at Miami now. He may claim money wasn't the issue, but money was definitely a big part of the equation there that brought him to Coral Gables.
Do we think that the crystal ball winner, On3 has one as well. It's like an RPM, I think, something. There's like a strength factor. I don't know. Okay. Do we think there's an annual winner that is like handed the keys to a Cadillac, a la Glengarry Glen Ross? Do we think like there is a crystal ball, like, is there a crystal ball for the crystal ball champion? How about that? Get sort of super meta with it.
Sort of like the director's trophy for the best athletic department.
Yes. Is there some sort of 247 banquet at the end of the year in which whoever, is that where I see these names and I get them all mixed up? Is Tom Loy, is he 247 or is he On3?
I believe he's still 247.
Steve Wiltfong.
Steve Wiltfong moved over to On3.
That was an earth-shattering move, Ty.
It was a Fong bomb, excuse me, not bong, that's different.
Right.
Fong bomb of its own merit. Yes, of course.
So all of these names have come across my eyeballs over the years. But yeah, I would love to know if is there a bonus involved? Is there a banquet? Is there some sort of cash prize involved in the Crystal Ball champion? Like
get on the horn and message Brandon. Okay. And find out what the incentives are for getting those predictions correct. Because, you know, like if you've read any college football preview publications over the last 20 years, Phil Steele has made it a habit to talk about in the first like 8 lines of any preview how accurate he's been over the last decade. There is definitely a premium. Every fantasy football site, fantasy sports site does it. They all are trading on their accuracy. And so I'd be curious to know, like, is there any accountability after the fact for people making these predictions?
You know, it's like an actual like source of contention, the crystal ball in the recruiting world.
I have to imagine it is.
That there are like families ask writers to hold off, that the writer knows that there's going to be a commitment there, hold off until very late in the process, and there's a whole thing. Brandon responded.
Already?
Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
Gold watch, gift card to the Jelly of the Month Club. It doesn't sound like there's an actual bonus.
Okay. So maybe the real post here out on Scoop Duck should be demanding some accountability, or demanding a full write-up at the end of the year.
Yeah, I would like, again, I don't know how this will ever happen, but my idea for the most successful college football podcast of all time is a media member, a coach, somebody employed in the industry deciding they're retiring. They're going to go rent out chairs as a new pursuit, because that's, if you want to make money, rent out chairs. And they start a new show, and it's just called Burning Bridges. And it's just every single story they have, because they've decided. And, you know, we've had it kind of with disenfranchised coaches starting things up, but I don't know if the likability is there. But I want some sort of official Burning Bridges podcast. We're like, yeah, this is what happened with this guy's recruitment. And you want to hear something crazy about this coach? Here's the story.
Yeah.
And somebody just has nothing. Maybe it's somebody, this is about to get dark, Ty, and I apologize, terminally ill.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is like a deathbed confession podcast.
Right. That's what I'm looking for.
Let's go over to Vandy247 if we can.
Yeah, please.
Handle here is Vandy Nut.
Okay.
Is it possible our players are too smart?
I hear that.
Too many kids on the dean's list.
Mm-hmm.
Too many thinking kids that get bad stuff in their head and actually think about it. That's the end of the post.
That's the end of the post. So is it possible that kids attending an elite institution like Vanderbilt to both learn and play football are learning too much, and it's getting in the way of their football, the see ball, hit ball carrier mentality?
Is this post from Clark Lee or a member of the staff hiding behind a handle?
Here's the other thing. Here's why I'm going to give this post validity, okay? The more you're stressed out about other things, the more difficult it is to do what you're trying to do, whatever that is.
Correct.
If you're trying to produce and host and edit a quality podcast about message board weirdos, but you've got sick dogs, a wife who's angry at you, your house is crumbling, your lawn is out of control, you think that there are ostriches eating away at your fence, you keep hearing helicopters at night, you're not going to do your best job. And so what I'm saying here is, if we have players who decided to enroll at Vanderbilt and to accept a scholarship offer to play at Vanderbilt, who are also super interested in becoming podiatrists or architects or 19th century English scholars, or want to someday become a curator for Victorian art at a French museum, and they're putting in the work, the unseen hours that they're grinding to sort of play football at a high SEC level, beat Alabama again, but also, you know, really thinking thoughtful things about Man A or something. I could see it. That's a lot to juggle.
Let me widen the aperture a little bit on this. This is a similar, not the same, but similar post out on UGA
What
Sports.
is your big interest in space? What was it?
My big interest?
Yeah, it was dark matter. What is it that you like are fascinated by in space? There's some, I forget what it is.
Dark matter? It's probably not dark matter. No.
I
can't see it. So
weren't you at some point very interested in something that occurs allegedly, hypothetically in space that could be used as a fuel of the future?
Oh, I'm always interested in hypothetical propulsion sources.
Exactly. So if
you want to talk a little warp drive on this podcast, I am down with that.
So what I'm saying, if you are Diego Pavia,
yeah,
and you are attending a class and you just think it's a run-of-the-mill class, but at Vanderbilt, there's going to be some excellent professors, some excellent courses, as there are most places. But Diego Pavia, maybe this kind of class wasn't offered at New Mexico State. And all of a sudden, a teacher plants the seed of alternate space propulsion in his head the night before the Georgia game.
Right. Information warfare is what you're describing.
It's a distraction, Ty. It's a distraction. Academics are a distraction.
From UGA Sports,
Yeah.
we've got a post here that says, I blame some, not all. I don't know what we are casting blame for here. Again, taken a little bit out of context, to be fair. I blame some, not all, on the out-of-state acceptance rate. The average Georgia fan now is some brainiac from New Jersey who scored a 1490 on their SAT.
Has that phrase, that some brainiac from New Jersey? Continue.
This might be a first. At most other SEC schools, the average rabid fan, college student, can still enroll. Other schools have a brotherhood and a fan base that Georgia does not. Georgia does have great fans, just not as great as other places. Ooh. On a Georgia message board, no less.
I don't know. I would imagine every major place.
So the first was our players are too smart. Now it's our fans are too smart, Dan.
Well, it's not only the fans are too smart. I actually understand, I think, the energy behind this a little bit.
It's our alumni are too smart? Well, I don't know if I'm getting this. I don't know if I'm feeling this.
If you were to grow up in New Jersey and your line of thinking is, I, of course, am a brainiac from Marlboro, wherever, New Jersey.
Right. Montclair, New Jersey.
Right. You're from a township.
Sure.
And on TV, you see Georgia, right? You see this stadium and the hedges and the tradition and the warmth and the frenzied nature of SEC football. And you're like, all due respect to Rutgers. All due respect to Seton Hall basketball. But I can't get that here. I want to go to Georgia. I want to go to Texas. I want to go to Alabama, which, of course, all of these places being on network TV, having these excellent programs, these big personalities, these NFL draft picks. Well, we talk about this. It's a marketing thing, right? That the applications are up, that the idea that all these universities are getting so much free marketing by being on huge TV so often is very real. And schools charge more for out-of-state tuition. So I understand the fear that if Georgia becomes delocalized, that it's so many more kids who are not from Georgia or not from surrounding states or something, that they're not going to understand and they're not going to live and die with Georgia football, that they didn't grow up a Dog fan, that they didn't grow up with the traditions or staying up nights wondering about David Green's weird throws in the 2000s, that they're not going to be a value add to the in-game experience or the experience of being in the Georgia community.
Not a
like
brotherhood.
Somebody who was
no longer a brotherhood,
born and bred a Georgia fan.
Now,
I understand it. I don't see a huge amount of value in it, but I get it.
Counterpoint.
Yeah.
One member of the broadcasting duo grew up, I would say, a brainiac enough in Southern California.
New Jersey.
Southern California.
Oh, me. Okay.
Took his talents to Eugene, Oregon.
Yeah.
And is now a much sought after member of the Oregon fan base.
Oh, yeah. Am I? Okay.
I don't know if that's true. You're more sought after an Oregon fan than I am.
I guess so.
And you're from out of state. You grew up a Florida State fan. You love Peter Warwick.
Yeah. I arguably went to Oregon because I saw one of the coolest hats at a Nike factory outlet. It was a fuzzy UO. It's behind me. Or you can, if you're watching on YouTube, it's right above. Do you see it, Ty? Do you look at the screen? Right above my finger.
I see it.
I was like, this is a dope hat. I might attend that university someday.
You went to Oregon for the hat.
So, no, I didn't go to Oregon for the hat. I visited. I really liked it. I liked the journalism school. I just enjoyed the vibe. There are a ton of California people who go to Oregon. They used to sell shirts that say the University of California at Eugene. So I don't feel like I was an outsider at all. I knew a ton of people from California when I went to Oregon. So I don't know. Maybe that has weakened Oregon, that it's not
but the
as
distance
local.
The distance from, I don't know why I'm using Montclair, New Jersey. The distance from Montclair, New Jersey to Athens, Georgia is strikingly similar to that from LA up to Eugene, Oregon.
I'm sure. I just don't think traditionally, I think in the last few years, it's been the case that a lot of people from more northern states are heading south because of what is viewed as a more fun experience, warmer climate, big sports success, that kind of thing. So I understand the appeal. And when I traveled, I would meet, a lot of people from the Northeast going to SEC schools. My brother-in-law went to Texas from the suburbs of Chicago, went to Texas. And so I get it. A lot of people up here are doing that more and more. So I understand it from their perspective, and I understand it from the locals' perspective. But I think if you pulled Alabama fans, if you pulled Texas fans, if you pulled Florida fans, whatever, all those schools are drawing from all over the place, and they'd probably agree with the statement, being an Alabama fan isn't the same as it used to be. Being a Georgia fan isn't the same. Being a Florida fan isn't the same. Being a Tennessee fan isn't the same as it used to be. And so I just think, as the sports gets more nationalized, enrollment's going to become more nationalized, and people are able to learn more about schools via the internet than they were able to ever before. And so I don't know. It's a reality, but I get it. You want locals only. You want to be like a surfer in Malibu, starting fights like in like Johnny Utah and all that. God, what's the movie? Point Break. You want that locals only mentality a little bit.
Don't hassle me. I'm local.
Yeah.
To the point. I mean, I don't know if I've ever even told this story on the podcast.
Okay.
All these years later. Freshman year up at Penn State, there was an internet search about transferring to Florida State.
You?
Yeah.
Because of weather? Because you're just like, I need a fresh start in my life. I've been in PA this entire time. I saw Jen Sturger and her friends on TV. The time is right.
I think this was before that.
Okay, that's probably true. Yeah.
I don't remember the exact reason why.
So what year What year was this?
This would have been
like
the fall of 2001.
Fall of 2001.
Yeah, or no, the fall of 2000 actually.
So you're a freshman. You're a true freshman.
True freshman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fall of 2000, and I don't recall exactly why it was, but
you were like, they just lost the national championship to Oklahoma. I'm the missing piece. Wasn't that Florida State who lost to Oklahoma and Mike Leach?
Florida State, yes, did lose to Oklahoma.
Well, it was Bob Stoops. Was Leach still there, or did he leave? Had he already left after? I think maybe he left after a year.
Was that the Oklahoma drilled them? Didn't they put up like 55 points or something?
No. I think it was like 14-6.
Oh, it was that game. It was a rock fight. You're right. Okay. Anyway, let's talk about Florida State here.
That would have been the year after I think Florida State beat Michael Vick and Virginia Tech.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. I'm getting my times mixed up.
Yeah.
Knowles 24/7 has been having a bit of a field day here with Mike Norvell.
Yeah.
So, I mean, last season was bad. 3-9. It was a bad season.
Yeah.
And so there's that. On top of it, the recent postings here that were highlighted by our friends at Board Geniuses are surrounding losing a recruit to Houston.
So I think, okay, is this about the 5-star quarterback who was going to visit Florida State? Again, you didn't have the context here. I think it's Keyshawn Henderson. I hope I got that name right. 5-star, local to Houston, and was going to visit Florida State, but then shut down his recruitment. That's what it might be in reference to. Yeah, but he's been committed to Houston for a while.
Handle prison Mike Norvell.
Yeah.
I'm convinced we'd finish with a better class if we didn't have a head coach. Just fire him now.
Ooh, I like this.
Got another one here that says, dig up dirt on Norvell and fire him for cause. That's the quickest way out of this.
Mm-hmm.
I'd imagine there's been a steady flow of those kinds of posts over the last 9 months or so. Because, again, last season did not go well. Norvell, for his part, is not a stranger to losing high-profile recruits to institutions that Florida State fans feel they are maybe superior to, i.e. Travis Hunter electing to go elsewhere before electing to transfer with his head coach over to Colorado.
Right.
This is not a new thing, per se. This is not exactly the same. But Mike Norvell has been taking some arrows here. And you can expect that unless things turn around very quickly this season, there's going to be a lot more of this out on Knowles 24/7. There was one here from War Chant as well that I guess
What's the name of this poster?
This one is Prison Mike Norvell.
Prison Mike. So in reference to The Office, we assume? Like his full username is Prison Mike Norvell?
That is what I am seeing here, yes.
Okay. If in the next few weeks an incriminating video of some kind appears on the internet featuring Mike Norvell, and Mike Norvell is insistent that it is a deep fake, Prison Mike Norvell has to be considered a suspect. I don't know who the first coach to be fired as a result of a deep fake will be, but we have something on the pseudo record that it's going to be Mike Norvell.
They're getting very good at it.
I hate it, man.
Which is problematic.
I hate it so much.
It is problematic.
Deep fakes.
Yeah.
It's okay. So I understand the concern about Mike Norvell. I understand why it doesn't seem like things are going to get dramatically better quickly for Florida State and Mike Norvell. You know what Florida State's ceiling is, and that is an absolute playoff caliber team, or a 4-team playoff caliber team, let alone 12, 16, whatever.
Yeah.
We know Florida State's path is going to be easier to get to a 16-team playoff than a lot of teams in, Big Ten, SEC, whatever. And so I think the idea is, sure, season was a catastrophe last year, but look at these next couple recruiting classes coming in. And if the recruiting's not there, how are you going to impress Prison Mike Norvell? Could you imagine what would be the path for a team to go without a head coach? Just like offense is handled by offensive coordinator, defense is handled by defensive coordinator. Who's calling out timeouts? Who's making executive decisions?
It worked with Paul Walker in Varsity Blues.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe there's just a player who embodies leadership.
Yeah, it works it almost works, I would say. Like
it nearly
works. It nearly works for Notre Dame against MAC teams. Nearly.
Stop it.
No, I would love for Florida State to do this. I don't know who's the next coach, like when somebody gets fired and it happens in March and there's it's too late to do a job search in earnest. Like with the Bobby Petrino thing, it was John L. Smith who stepped in.
Right.
Who is that next? And it was Baylor with, what's his name? The Wake coach, the longtime Wake coach, took over at Baylor for our
Jim
Browns.
Jim Grobe.
Grobe, yes. And now we've got Frank Reich at Stanford.
Totally
forgot about that.
Yeah.
Who is that next coach who hasn't coached in a couple years? And, it's Dion at Colorado resigns, or it's PJ Fleck at Minnesota resigns, or it's whoever just for some reason steps down or is fired for cause. There's well, I guess we're hiring, and then Steve Mariucci? Who is that guy who's
Michigan
yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll take the money. How much you got? $800K for 6 months? All right, let's figure it out. Indiana. Let's figure it out, Michigan. I want to know who, if nobody is on staff or the full staff is seen as being problematic, who are the first 3 calls from a currently inactive college or NFL head coach who has a good chance of being yeah, man, I'll make sure players show up on time. I'll call some parents. I'll hire an old buddy to coach linebackers. Who's that list for you? I'm putting you on the spot.
Oh my God.
But who is that emergency step in?
Well, I guess if you're being thorough,
That's not currently an assistant somewhere. You can call Dana Holgerson, but he's got a job.
If you're being thorough,
yeah.
And if you really want to take a swing, the first call is Saban.
No. That's not a step-in coach.
Well, it would be a step-in coach, wouldn't it?
No,
You wouldn't hire Saban for $2 million to just come and hang out for 6 months and keep the program from dying.
I'm saying somebody who you feel has that itch to coach Washington State football for 216 days.
Right. I mean,
like, it's probably not like Rick Neuheisel. It's probably not somebody with like a big media job at this point. It's probably somebody who's getting a little bit sick of spending time with their family and spending time on the golf course.
Right. Gosh, I don't know. I don't know who that guy would be.
Does Paul Christ have a job right now?
I don't think so.
I think he's angling for something bigger. He did some stuff, I think, was it with Texas last year?
Yes. I don't know. I need to think more about that one. You are putting me on the spot.
I'm putting you on the spot, but like, who are like recent NFL coaches who were like, did Jacksonville fire their coach, the guy who won the Super Bowl, Doug Peterson?
Oh, Doug Peterson. So you're basically talking about who could we hire in a pinch who's willing to take on like a gig. Just a gig spot. We're not going to give you a long-term contract. You're going to be hired for a 6-month contractor type situation. Yeah. And then after that, you'll be on your merry way. Maybe we'll give you some input into the next coach. But otherwise, no. You're just coming and you're going to be a full-on stand-in here. A substitute teacher.
Like, I'm looking at the names of 2014 head coaches. Jeff Fisher. Lovie Smith.
Do you remember when Jeff Fisher was rumored for every job?
Of course.
It was like its own meme.
Yeah, like Rutgers needs a new coach, and they're hiring Jay Gruden. Right? I want to know the ADs of the world. I want to know their first 3. Oh, crap, it's late June. We need a warm body. We need a grown-up, and we don't like our interim options internally. We're hiring blah, blah, blah. You know? Right. That's what I want to know.
It's some boisterous commentator. Isn't that how Herm Edwards got hired in the first place?
Probably. I mean, he stayed public. Like, they're hiring Mark Trestman. He's apparently a senior offensive assistant for the Chargers right now.
Somebody who went to high school.
Oh, man. Mark Trestman, Toronto Argonauts, 17-18. Tampa Bay Vipers, head coach and GM. LA Chargers senior offensive assistant at the moment. Frank Reich one got me thinking, Ty. That's all.
Let's close this contest. Let's close this episode out.
Yeah.
By pushing on one of the big pressure points right now in the sport. So I'm guessing you saw the news that there was this hearing, this negotiation, this.
I like the way you were saying it.
Negotiation. This mediation between Michigan and the NCAA, and Connor Stalions showed up.
I did see that.
Connor Stalions was there. It was sort of a surprise that Connor Stalions would be there at all. Perhaps indicates that Michigan and Stalions were a little bit more cooperative with the investigators than initially thought. Not going to read any tea leaves, not going to try and project what that means for any forthcoming infractions or not infractions, whatever. I don't know. But this was a story that came out over the last few days.
Yeah.
As you might expect. The folks over on MGO Blog, the folks out on Bucknuts, two sides of that rivalry
of course
have been going nuts about this for years now on end. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we've got one here that says, this is out on MGO Blog, Charlotte Blue. If knowing every play pre-snap is such an advantage, how did the opposing teams ever even score any points? Fair question. Fair question.
True. Yeah.
Fair question. Somebody else on the Wolverine, which is a different Michigan site, TN Wolverine, I'm guessing TN is Tennessee, talking more specifically about Connor Stalions. I've watched every interview he's done. He's such an interesting and intelligent guy. I'd welcome him back.
Sure. Of course.
Okay.
Yeah. I need to see that manifesto, though.
Might be a little weird, right? But I have also found him very engaging. I've been following some of his commentary.
Connor Stalions?
Yeah.
Okay, what is the engaging commentary?
He is thoughtful. I'll give him that. Okay. He's thoughtful, albeit maybe a little bit weird, right? If you're doing the manifesto thing, if you're selling the refrigerators out of the, there's a whole conversation there. But yeah, I don't disagree with the poster.
Yeah.
The flip side of this is from Bucknuts, Buckaholic, who just a few days ago, we're recording this on the 10th. This was 8:59 a.m. June 8th, which I believe would be Sunday morning, a shade before 9 o'clock. saying that there is a fork in the road. If the NCAA doesn't provide the most serious punishment in college football history here, the entire nation will go rogue and lawless. This is a critical.
Yeah.
It just says this is a critical, I'm assuming he meant moment, for the future of college football, Dan. So we still have this going on. At some point, I think in the next few months, we're going to get closure on the whole Connor Stalions investigation and what it means for Michigan. We do know that
Sherrone Moore's self-suspended.
Yes, there's a self-suspension, I believe, for weeks 3 and 4 of the upcoming college football season. A bit cherry-picked, but nonetheless going to be paying the piper and preemptively suspending himself. They're preemptively suspending him for any sort of role in this whole ordeal. What would you be posting? I think is the better question.
As an Ohio State fan or as a Michigan fan?
As both. We know you've got deep ties now into the Michigan universe.
Oh, yeah, that's me.
What would you be posting about this if you were out on a message board?
If I were an Ohio State fan and this was all going on, I think I would be, I would try to be the poster who would say something like, guys, we just won a national championship. It was so cool. Can we just talk about Jeremiah Smith some more?
But lost to Michigan.
Lost to Michigan.
Lost to Michigan.
We
See,
won a
that's
national
what's going to get
championship.
stuck in the craw.
We blew out a bunch of teams and had like this incredible play deep to Jeremiah Smith to ice it against Notre Dame. You know, a team we recruit against, a team that's in our region. You know, we got revenge on Oregon. Like, it's a pretty good time. It's a pretty good time. It seems like Julian Sayin is well regarded. You have Patricia calling the defense. So I'm not sick of this story, but if I were Ohio State, I would try to get over it.
I just don't think that's realistic.
I know it's not.
There's no way that's realistic. You can't tell Ohio State people to get over this. You can't tell Michigan people to get over this.
I know, but here's the problem. They lost without Stalions this year.
They did.
So that takes, and like they lost to the worst Michigan team of the modern era.
But without Harbaugh, without a quarterback,
right. So I don't know, man. From the Michigan perspective, I would just, I would soak in this happiness jacuzzi that it's getting under the craw, getting under the skin of Ohio State fans all the time.
Yeah.
Life is good if you're a Michigan fan.
I think life's pretty good.
You got a great quarterback coming in, hopefully.
There is something that still haunts me, and that is when we did our live stream right after Michigan beat Washington for the title.
Yeah.
I think it was 11 minutes into that episode. I went off on a bit of a tangent, bringing up this controversy.
Yeah.
Okay, bringing up this controversy as sort of the backdrop for the season, which it was.
Totally.
In hindsight, I wish I had maybe been a little bit more, what's the way I want to phrase this?
Artful?
Yeah. I wish I hadn't made it. I wish I hadn't gone out and
it's your
made
show.
it such
that
an
was
emphasis.
what's on your mind.
Such an emphasis. It was what a lot of people had sent in, and it definitely was the backdrop. But there were a lot of Michigan people who also chimed in saying, why do you have to throw cold water on the national championship 11 minutes into the episode?
They did on the actual broadcast, too.
They did on the broadcast, but we're not the actual broadcast. And I do regret that I did that. I think I apologized to some. I don't know.
You were being honest. That was on your mind.
It was on my mind.
It's a watch along. If you were watching it with me and we were on the couch, we would talk about it.
We are all about good vibes here. I don't want to be a negative Nancy.
It's not negative. You just you spit facts.
I do spit facts. It was something that was very much, I think, a talking point going into that game and all throughout that season. So
I wouldn't have any regret.
I do have a little bit of regret.
If
I'm being honest with you. We're different guys here.
Regrets are worthless.
But that being said, I still, for as much as I am not one to clutch pearls over any specific rule in college football at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just not. We've been doing this too long. Mm-hmm. There is part of that sort of gets a little bit duller over time. Okay. But how could they not be penalized for this?
Oh, I agree. And the thing that I think,
how could they not? I understand that maybe there's a little bit of a lone wolf thing going on. I understand that the impact that this may have on the on-field game, on the product, may be minimized. I get all that. I just don't understand how this can't be penalized to some degree. I'm not saying give them the death penalty. I'm not even saying take away the title. I don't even know if they can take away the title. It's like its own separate thing. But there has to be something for this, right?
Well, the thing that hurts everything is how long it's taken. Right?
Well, but that's also been the NCAA's MO forever.
Right. So that's what I'm saying is like
forever.
You're going to lose the court of public opinion by dragging it out over a couple of years, that people are just going to care less, that, Jim Harbaugh is not the current coach, that Stalions is gone, that it's just like, it's a different look program right now, even though there's like the Sharon Moore thing with deleting texts. And I want a comprehensive summary of the investigation before I weigh in. That's all I want.
I would like that too. Because all we know right now is what's been published publicly from reporters who have been chasing down this story for 2 years now.
Right.
Connor Stalions has been mum. He has not said a whole lot on it. He doesn't really have to say it. This is not a legal matter.
Right.
This is a private matter, right? And it is very much shielded from public view to the extent that the NCAA and Michigan and all the involved parties will allow.
Right. It's also not hacking, right? It's not Connor Stalions bugging Northwestern's defensive meeting room.
This is not illegal in the sense that he's going to go to jail. He's going to have to pay a fine to the authorities as a result.
Who was the baseball hack? It was the Astros and Cardinals, I want to say. It's not that.
No, it is not that. This is very much in the spirit of trying to help the team win, maybe against the rules, but not going to jail for this.
Right.
So, yes, I am like you. I would like a full, comprehensive breakdown, a timeline, everything that transpired here before we weigh in. But based on what we know, there at least seems to be some tie-in between Connor Stalions and the coaching staff. He was on the staff. Right. So something should happen. I don't know what, because I don't know all the details yet, but I think if I were a Michigan fan, if I were posting on a Michigan board, I would post a lot of what we saw here. And if I were an Ohio State fan, I'd post a lot of what we saw there. So I get it from both sides of this thing. I'm just very curious to see what the conclusion of this investigation is, because I've maintained for a while, like, not necessarily rooting for it. I think Michigan's a really interesting story. I think college football is better when Michigan is good, full stop. But I would like for there to be some conclusion to this. And I do think, if we're being honest here with ourselves, there should be some kind of infraction.
I want closure. I just want closure. I just want to know. That's it. All right. That's all I have.
solidverbal@gmail.com. If there are any postings out there that we missed that you would like for us to highlight on our next round of Message Board Geniuses, solidverbal@gmail.com. Reach out on social media. Of course, we would love to get your input if the Michigan folks want to chime in and let me know what they think about all this.
By the way, it's gotten very personal in the off season on Message Board Geniuses. There are posts about like, hey, which way is everybody's dong hang? 100% accurate.
There was a poll, wasn't it?
There was a poll. There was something on, like, I'm kind of bummed that my wife's not into trying new things. And, like, not talking about bedroom, just like, I wanted to go for a walk on the beach. And she was like, no, why would I do that?
It's a long off season,
It's a long off season.
It's a long off season. This is why we need college football back. So we stop reading posts like that and start reading more about football.
Yep, agree.
Go and check out the Board Geniuses site, @Board Geniuses on Twitter X. They've got a podcast as well. They did not know we were doing this. I had every intention of reaching out to them to try and get a voice memo recording of somebody from that team weighing in, dictating their favorite message board post. I did not do that. I was delinquent in my duties. So
fair enough. Okay, happens.
If they would like to send it in, we will include it on our next episode. How about that?
Great.
Dan, this is fun. It always is. Thank you, one and all. Hit follow, hit subscribe. Verballers.com is where you can go for the bonus content. For that guy over there, my good friend Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildenbrandt, we will talk to you all next week. In the meantime, stay solid.
Peace.